you see, part of what was going on for me is I was falling into the same struggle that I hear many women talk about. And that struggle is I felt like I had a time management problem. I had my husband stupid problem. I had my kids won't just dang listen to me problem. I had all of these things that I thought was all out there. It was everybody else's problem. And when that was happening for me, I was putting myself last. Everyone else was first, and that is one of the tendencies as women. We naturally go towards caregiving. Well, usually the kids go first, and then our business or our extended family, our friends, everyone else, and then our partner, and then ourselves is last. And usually a relationship with the divine and connection doesn't even make it on the board.
Hi loves, welcome to I Start First podcast, the show for boss babes who start ideas, businesses, dreams, and lifestyle. I'm your host, Alinka Cullinan, founder of I Start First, speaker, author, and business coach, aka Queen of Pushing Boss Babes Off the Ledge. On this show, I chat with epic humans who are guaranteed to up-level your business and mindset. Are you ready to sparkle up? Let's go. Hi, ladies. I'm so excited to bring you this episode of I Start First podcast because, as you know, it's always about amazing boss divas who are building things, making things happen, and changing the world. And as you know, we do it with sparkles. Well, the woman who is with us today is doing it with fire. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Connie Benjamin, and she's going to tell you more about what her mission is. Hi,
Connie.
My
goodness. Thank you so much, Alinka. It is so great to be on this show. I am so grateful for the space that you provide for us. I love that you talk about sparkle, and yes, we're doing it with fire too. So that's awesome. My mission is to support women entrepreneurs with lighting their fire within, so that you can share your message without losing your family or yourself. I know I almost lost both. So that's really important to me.
Yeah, I love that. And gosh, it's so needed because so many of us, right? We get ignited, we get into our passion, we dive in fully, and then nothing else exists, right? Because I feel like as a woman, it's so much harder because we naturally balance so many more roles than men do. So how are you doing that? How did it came to be? I mean, you said you almost lost both. So if you don't mind, share a little bit of your story with the listeners, because I know they'd love to know.
That sounds great. I've got a crazy story. So here we go. I love crazy stories, and lucky for you, I've got several of them. So it really started where I was working in a job and I loved it. I loved helping the people that I was working with, but my heart was just longing to be home with my little girl. In fact, every time I would get in the car, I literally would cry, pretend to pull myself together, get into work, and it just was not what I wanted. And on top of that, Alinka, I was living in an area of town that was unsafe for my family. And so I knew I had to move, but we didn't have enough money to move at all. And I knew I needed to start a business, but I had no idea how to run a business. That was so new to me. And so I began to learn. I started reading every book I could get my grubby little fingers on. I went to the events I could. And I began to get some success. And I got to a place where I had enough money to move. And I will never forget walking into our new house. My little girl skipped across the kitchen and out into the backyard, and she's running through the trees. And I was just like, I did it. This was amazing. I did it. And I really felt like I had won. But what I didn't realize is I was actually about to lose what mattered most to me, because you see, I had worked so hard in hustling in my business that I was disconnected from my husband. My health was massively deteriorating to a point where I was tired all the time. I felt quite down, and I was stressed out as a mom. Yeah. And I just felt lost. And I remember one day, everything came to a head one day when I was in my office. I was late for an interview. I had a million things on my to-do list, and I felt so stressed out. And I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you feel so overwhelmed you can't even think clearly. Yeah. That is where I was at. And I remember in a moment of complete overwhelm, complete just disorientation, I picked up a glass and I threw it at the wall. And I remember looking down at myself and seeing pieces of shattered glass all around me. And it was that moment that I realized, Connie Benjamin, everything needs to change. And I made a commitment to change everything in that moment. And so that sent me on a quest to figure out, how could I build a business and, have a great relationship and love being with my kids? What does this look like? And actually take care of myself. And so I developed I found FIRE principles, and then I developed the My Fire Within system that helped me to write my book, helped me to fall in love with my husband again. And I can honestly say our marriage is better today than the day we got married, and helped me to, enjoy being a mom and do what I needed to do in my business. So now I'm just on a mission for the last decade to support other women entrepreneurs with lighting their fire within, so that you can share a message without losing our family or your sanity.
Yeah, no, I love it so, so much. I love your mission, obviously, and everything you're doing. Because, it's crazy how sometimes we talk about purpose all the time, right? And we talk about living from our purpose, and yet we lose it with all the running and all the hustling and everything we're doing. We literally, are so focused on building our purpose that we lose our mission, or vice versa. And so I really admire you for, one, being so raw and open and honest with women about it, because so many of them out there walk through life without ever admitting that to themselves, right? We have, and I'm sure you've seen it with your clients, and I've seen it with women I worked with. A lot of them will just coast, right? They give up. It's like you said, you're so tired, you're so overwhelmed, you can't think clearly. And you just coast. You're just like, well, maybe it's how it's supposed to be, right? Maybe this is the grind and hustle. And to me, it's crazy, because if you lose a sense of joy, then why are you doing this in the first place, right? If you're not enjoying this run that you're on, this journey, then what's the point of actually doing that? So I know you have a few FIRE principles that you developed and you work with. Can you give us an example of one that maybe it's your favorite?
Absolutely. I love talking about this, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I've learned over the last decade, is talking to other women entrepreneurs, and I would hear similar experiences. For me, it was the shattered glass, and for someone else, it might be a moment of, what the crap is happening right now, or my health is deteriorating, or my relationship is struggling, like just whatever, however that plays out. And so one FIRE principle that has been really, really meaningful to me is something called FIRE priorities. And the reason it's really shifted things for me is because, you see, part of what was going on for me is I was falling into the same struggle that I hear many women talk about. And that struggle is, I felt like I had a time management problem. I had my husband's stupid problem. I had my kids won't just dang listen to me problem. I had all of these things that I thought was all out there. It was everybody else's problem. And when that was happening for me, I was putting myself last. Everyone else was first, and that is one of the tendencies as women. We naturally go towards caregiving. And so often we put everybody else first. You think about priorities in terms of, kids or ourselves or a partner or everybody else. Well, usually the kids go first, and then our business or our extended family, our friends, everyone else, and then our partner, and then ourselves is last. And usually a relationship with the divine and connection doesn't even make it on the board. So that's what I was going through. And what that led to me feeling, Olenka, was stressed out, burnt out, tired, overwhelmed, and resentful. Like that was it in a nutshell. And so I realized that if I could just make that shift, if I could change things and go from, I've got an everyone else's problem, why won't they just listen to me? And I could start changing and realize that it was really a priorities issue. And when I changed that priorities, oh my gosh, like everything shifted. And so doing FIRE priorities has been game changing for me. So I'll just break it down real fast in how it works, because I believe in tangibles. Yeah. And this is one we can just do today. And I know you do too. So if this is an acronym, FIRE priorities is an acronym. I love acronyms because they help us learn and remember, and I need all the help I can get. So in FIRE, the FIRE in FIRE principles, our FIRE priorities stands for, the F is for first creator. And what that means first is basically put the creator first in whatever spiritual context that you have, whether that's God or Allah or universe or creator. find some way to connect with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
I hear many people talk about maybe that's meditation or yoga or prayer or whatever it is, reading something uplifting spiritually, some way to connect and get inspiration from the divine.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, because that will help us to guide where we need to go in our life. And I truly believe that each and every one of us has a purpose, and that will guide the direction. Now, the I in FIRE priorities stands for inspired self-care. And the wording that I use around that is very intentional. Inspired, I'm talking about the kind of self-care that just like lifts your soul, gives you that sparkle that you are talking about. You know, not the kind we see in the movies where people have those like cucumber things on their eyes. I really don't know anyone that does that. But maybe one day I'll meet somebody. I don't know. But that thing that really fills our soul, helps us to be like, you know, lit up, sparkling from the inside out. And so those are things like, you know, maybe that's yoga, maybe that's meditation, maybe that's journaling, whatever that is, that thing that just lights you up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the R stands for having a connection with our partner. So that relationship with a partner, if we have a relationship with our partner. And if we don't, recognizing that when you are in a relationship, that's going to be a priority, because what that does is it helps us to be united with that really long-term relationship. And that's just awesome. Mm-hmm. And one of the things at this point in a conversation, when I share this with people, is often they'll kind of look at me like, are you kidding me, Connie? I don't have time for any of this. But I want you to know it really doesn't need to take long. It seriously can take just a moment. Yeah. And the E in FIRE priorities stands for engage kids. And what that means is basically we can be so busy rocking in our business, and sometimes our kids come in and they need us, and it can be really challenging to juggle between, you know, I've got this book deadline, or I've got this thing, an interview right now, or whatever it is, and my kids need me. How do we do that? How do we juggle that? And so I found that if we can just engage with our kids for just a moment, then that kind of fills their tank and allows them to go off and play, and it allows us to be more effective in our work. So that is the FIRE priorities.
Love it. That's awesome. Yeah, ladies, if you haven't, I know it's a lot. Connie just gave you a lot of tangibles. So I would bookmark this. I would re-listen to this part. I would, save it and go back to that, because honestly, like she said, it's not going to take you a lot of time. It's just a matter of practice and matter of refocusing and that shift in that perspective. But I love every single one of those. It is so, so true. And it's the small steps, right? It's the things that we sometimes don't want to do, or we feel like, what is this going to do for me? It's these things that actually shift you into a completely different mindset. So I love, 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 love this. And I know you have a book. So tell us a little bit more about the book.
Okay, sounds good. And I love that you talk about Olenka, that it really is what lights us up. That's what gives us the sparkle. And that is one of the biggest myths is that this idea that we don't have time to take care of ourselves. We don't have time to connect with people in that way. Yeah. And I really want you to know before we dive into the book is that this is literally how I wrote my book. Is these just bursts of moments? Because I remember there was a moment, just to give you a quick example in how this works in real life, because sometimes we can listen to this and I know I felt like that, like, okay, this sounds all well and good, but give me a real life example, Connie. So there was a time, and this ties with my book, there was a time when I was writing my book, all these deadlines. Now, I did not consider myself an author. I was not like blogging for years or something like that. That was not my background. And so I literally got inspiration to write this book. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I had a baby and a toddler and a preteen. My life was completely insane. And there were moments where I was literally writing the book on top of my laundry basket in my closet, because that was the only quiet place in my house. And the laundry was unfolded. Of course it was.
Of course.
Like, this was just my life, right? And so I remember there was a moment where I was writing my book in my office, and my little girl came up to me and she's like, Mommy, I need your attention. And I was like, I have this deadline. Just a second, sweetie. And then I remembered this principle. And so I was like, just a minute. And so I closed my laptop for a minute. I just looked over at her and gave her monster hands and started chasing her around the house. And all of a sudden She goes squealing around the corner. Her sister doesn't even know what's going on, but she sees there's a party going on. She starts screaming out of joy, like goes squealing around the corner. And pretty soon both of them go flying under their bed, and I'm tickling them under their bed. And it just took a moment.
Yeah.
And in that moment, their hearts were hit and they're like, love you,
Mm.
Mom. And then they went back to playing, and I went back to finishing off my book.
Mm.
And I tell you that story because that really is how the book was written. It was chaotic. And I started with 15-minute intervals. I actually used something called fire goals to write my book. I did it in 15-minute intervals to start with because I didn't have this massive stretch of time. Like, I was not the author sitting at a lakeside looking out on, right? I was not this person. I had kids and life and Laundry Mountain, and my life was crazy. And yet, how do you write the book, do the podcast, do the program when we're in the midst of crazy town, when we've got Laundry Mountain and all of those things? And so that's really what the book is about. How do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do when we feel like we've got this message that's just like burning within our hearts? We know we have to get it out there. And I know you're women on a mission.
Yeah.
And so what do we do when we have that mission?
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got these little people, and we've also got this desire to be the best mom, the best wife or partner that we can be. What does this look like? And so that's what the book's about.
I love it. I love it. And it's so true. I mean, yeah, that balance, we just all want the magical superpowers, right? We all want to be those moms on TV that wake up in plush robes with everything matching, drinking coffee, overlooking the lake. It's just not the case most of the time. So I love that. It's so, so true. And I think that's where a lot of misconception lies too. I think with women entrepreneurs, with women building their businesses, they somehow hang on to that. And it's very much fostered, I believe, by media and by social media that, we have this perfection misconception that everything has to be perfect and look perfect. And if I'm going to be productive, it needs to be 4-hour blocks. And I can go and write my book for, today's going to be the book day. I'm like, I don't even know what's me day, let alone the book day. So I think some of the, and I really love the fact that you are making it real. You're saying, no, that's not how you build something tangible. You can do it with crazy town life and, in small increments. So it's very, very important. So what would be so if there is a mom out there, and I know there is, who is listening right now and just straight up thinking, you know what, Connie, that's great, but my life is just crazy. Like, my life is crazy, overwhelming. I'm barely making basics happen. How do I get out of this? What would be your advice to her?
Oh my gosh, I love that question so much. The first thing I would want her to know is that you're not alone, and that actually, because there's so many women that are experiencing that right now, especially with what's happening in the world today. And so one thing that I've done to address that is I've literally brought together world experts to share how do we go from, survival mode to thriving when we're juggling a business and a family and all of those things. What does that look like? So I want you to know I do have a free resource. It's the Mompreneur Empowered Online Event. Olenka, I know you're an incredible guest in that event. So that's a free resource. You can go check that out just at www.myfirewithin.com/mompreneur. And so that's something that you can use right now to start getting, okay, what do I do? What do I start with? Because there's a few things that you need to know. So when we're feeling like that, when we're feeling like back is against the wall, life is just crazy, and we have that message to share, we've got that burning desire in our heart. Yeah. I think there's a few things that we need to understand. One is that you do have a purpose that's bigger than you can possibly imagine. You just do. If you don't know that, go to the divine and ask, because I promise you, if you have an open heart, you will get a sense of that. And I know that for sure. Like, I can tell you 100%, I know it, you know it, so let's do this. You've got something great to do. The other thing to be aware of is that the more that you can take care of yourself, like we talked about earlier, Olenka, in having your priorities in order, that's going to help you be uplifted and strengthened, because we cannot change our circumstances if our mindset is just going sideways. And I know that from experience, because I know I've struggled with mindset in the past. So anything that you can do to uplift and strengthen your mindset is going to be powerful. Connecting with the creator first. Remember, just like those fire priorities that we talked about, doing something to lift and strengthen yourself, whether that's exercise or whether that's affirmations or whether that's journaling or visioning your future self, knowing that this is not going to be your reality forever. And that's one thing that I actually do, is journal out my future life. What is my future life going to look like? What is it going to feel like? What's going to happen? And I look at that in the morning and at night. And that's something that can help you wherever you're at in your journey. If you're struggling, help you to know that this is not where it ends. This is just where your story begins. And if you can have that constant reminder to hang on to, you will become the person that fulfills that.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to share with you is that you do not need to reach your goals in big, huge increments like we talked about. You don't need the 4-hour book day or I never had the book day, no, that's not true. One day I had the book day only because the book was due like the next day and I had to wrap up the book, and it was crazy. I would not recommend it to anyone. So one thing that I've used that's really, really tangible is something called fire goals. And that's something that's going to help you to be able to hit any target in whatever's going on in your life. If it's all right with you, Olenka, do you mind if I briefly share what that is?
No, I would love to. Yes, please do.
Okay, obviously there's more to all of this, and this is just part of the entire My Fire Within system, but I want to give you like everything you can use right here, right now, and when implemented correctly, this can be very powerful. So fire goals, basically what it is I believe that each of us, you're talking about that amazing woman that's listening, that's going, I've got this mission, Olenka and Connie, I've got this mission, I've got this thing to do, and my life is crazy, and my back is against the wall, and I don't know how to do it. I get it. We feel you like 100%. So one thing that you can do is, I believe that a lot of times with goal setting, they're missing something. They're missing the fire. And so I want to help you put the fire in your goals. I want you to freaking light them up so you can sparkle within. So the first thing in fire goals, it's an acronym because, again, I love them. So the F stands for focus goal. And what that means is focusing on what's your long-term vision. And Olenka, I know you do a phenomenal job of that, focusing on what is your long-term vision that you want to go towards. And then also, what is a daily step that will get you there? So for me, for example, when I was writing my book, I did not have those entire 4-hour blocks, but I did have 15 minutes. So one of my focus goals was, I'm going to write in my book for 15 minutes every single day. Now, the I, and this is the biggest thing that gets missing in goal setting, and it drives me crazy, because without this, it's very difficult to maintain momentum to go to where we want to go. So what this is this is going to light a fire under your butt and help you to do that goal no matter what, no matter how crazy town your life is. If you can relate to my crazy town, you've got this. So the I stands for incentive. And basically what that means is, what incentive can you put in place to do it? If you do your daily goal, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And I've used everything from, I can have a shower as soon as I write in my book for 15 minutes. I can check my email as soon as I write in my book for 15 minutes. I can have the good tasting smoothie instead of the one that's 90% kale. Don't even get me started on that. As soon as I write in my book for 15 minutes, like whatever works. And the R in fire goals stands for responsibility, recognizing that you have a responsibility to yourself, your future self, the people that you're going to serve, and your creator, to take a step towards it. And the E stands for exact time. Pick a time, sister. If you know that the only quiet time you got in your house is at 5:45, 5:45 is your time. Do whatever works for you, but pick a time. And I know that when you do that, when you have those fire goals, it lights it lights your ability to reach those goals predictably and efficiently, no matter what's going on in your life, very, very effectively.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's so true. And I love that you make it all about like time and just doing it, because yes, we always are going to have something. It's always something. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to change unless we change it, and change as small increments, right? Changes is something we do with or without it. Easy or not, we just show up. And we know it as moms, right? I mean, to me, parenting is a perfect example. There are plenty of days when I don't want to parent, but it's not optional, you know? There are plenty
Yep.
of days when we want to hide in the closet, but we just have to show up. It's like you said, you have to connect with your kids, even if it's for those few moments. So connecting to your goals and connecting to your mission, even if it's for the same few moments a day, is just as crucial. So I love it so, so much. So I mean, I know it's not easy, and every woman listening will relate to being a mom and a partner, and and having all these things, juggling them. Do you believe in balance? Do you feel there is balance? I mean, you definitely explain it through the system very, very well, but is there truly, like, I get this question from women all the time, is there such thing as balance?
I love that question. Okay, to answer this question, I am going to tell you about this analogy that I have. This is the best analogy I've ever heard of what real balance is. Do I believe, and to answer your question, do I believe there's balance? Not in the term that we've been described up until now. If you look in the dictionary, and I've actually looked it up, what does the term balance mean? Now, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to quote it accurately, but this is the gist. This is the Connie Benjamin dictionary gist of what balance says in the dictionary. Something about that things are in an equal proportion. Do I believe that we can have that in our lives, an equal proportion to parenting, to being in our relationship, to taking care of ourselves, to our business? Heck to the no on that. But do I believe that there's a real balance, something that is real and messy and beautiful? Yes. And the best description I've ever heard of this is actually, have you ever seen plate spinning? If you've ever seen plate spinning, it's so phenomenal. So these incredible women will hold these sticks and with a plate on the end, and they'll spin the plate. Now, the amazing thing about this is that they'll have one plate at a time and one stick at a time, and then they'll spin the plate and the plate starts spinning. Once that plate is spinning, they can then pick up another stick and then put another plate on there. And as that's happening, eventually these amazing gifted women, I don't know how they do it. They juggle, they have many, many plates spinning at one time. But there's a really, really important lesson to be learned about what real balance is when we look at plate spinning. Here's a few things. One, they cannot start spinning all of the plates at the same time. And so often in our lives as women, we have this tendency to like you talked about this idea that we need to be perfect, this idea that everything needs to be perfectly balanced. It's not how it works. In fact, I believe that that's one of the extinguishers of fire that puts out our fire, is this idea that we need to be perfect. We're not perfect, so join the club. If you're not perfect, high five to you. That means you're human, and I love it because I only like to talk to human beings. That's great. But the other lesson to be learned about that is that when you see somebody spinning those plates in that way, when a plate starts to slow down, all she needs to do is just give it a tiny little spin on the top of the plate, and then the momentum kicks up again. She doesn't need to start over again. The plate doesn't drop. She just gives it that teeny little spin and the plate goes again. Now, what can we learn from that about balance, real balance? We can learn that sometimes in our lives when we're juggling so many different roles, that if we can just attend to the one that is kind of slowing down, that is the one we need to attend to. We don't need to do everything all at the same time. So for example, if we're feeling tired and kind of burnt out and we haven't been taking care of ourselves, maybe that's the moment that we need to do some meditation for even a minute, even 2 minutes, whatever that is. It's anything to spin that plate, to give attention to that next area. If our kids are like yanking on our arms, Mom, I need you, or they're fighting, sometimes, oh my goodness, given all of that's happening, all my 3 kids sometimes will start fighting at the same time. And I'm like, but if I go out there and I give them just that little bit of attention, then that contention dissipates.
Yeah.
It's just those moments of connection.
Yeah,
and
love
those
it.
moments, of real balance.
I love it. Yeah, the real balance. I love it so, so much. It's so true. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, it's very, very true because yeah, we can only, I mean, it's not magic. It's unfortunate real life and we all deal with it to the best of our ability. Well, before I ask you the last question, we're obviously going to put the event and I'm very excited, grateful to be a part of it. An amazing, amazing event that you're putting together for mompreneurs. So the event is going to be in the notes. Ladies, make sure you're going to click the link. It's there, it's available, it's for you. It's really, I mean, I know that every speaker, and myself including, who came in on Connie's choosing, is there because we want to serve from the heart. I know she serves from the heart. So, Connie, where can they connect with you? And again, we'll include everything in the show notes as well.
That sounds amazing. I would love if you could connect with me on my podcast. It's My Fire Within Radio. I get to interview amazing people like Olenka on that show. And so I love that. Or reach out to me on social media. And like you talked about, make sure that you reserve a free spot for that event. It's easy. It's www.myfirewithin.com/mompreneur. And we would love to see you there.
That's awesome. And yes, ladies, I mean, the value you're going to get, it is free. You can watch it in your pajamas with that glass of wine that we most times don't get to have, or water, or whatever you prefer. So yes. And coffee in the mornings when maybe you're getting your 15 minutes of quiet time. But Connie, I always close my podcast with the same question for everyone. If there is a boss babe out there who's listening to your story right now and she says, oh my goodness, everything she's been through and look at the fire that she's bringing and the value and the passion. I want to grow up to be just like Connie. What would be your one advice to her?
Oh my goodness. I would say grow up to be just like you, because you are more than enough, and that all of that you have within you is enough to do what you're meant to do in this life. I know that you have something great to do, and you have a mission and a purpose that's not only bigger than what you can possibly imagine, but there's somebody waiting for you to step into that. And you are going to be their person that they want to just be just like them.
Oh, I love it. So, so good. Honestly, I can't thank you enough for your raw and open conversation, for all the authenticity you bring in to the table, and obviously for the fire that comes from within. There is no doubt about it. We can see it. We can feel it. I know these ladies are going to see it and feel it. Thank you, Connie, so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to I Start First podcast. If you loved it as much as I did, feel free to tag us on Instagram at IStartFirst_. Share it with your besties, and if you feel so compelled, give us that 5-star review on iTunes. Till next time, and like always, kick ass and sparkle up.